Hi, welcome to Learn with me, Mrs. Sullivan. This lesson is for educators. This is Pear Deck for asynchronous lessons. Learn how to activate or start a lesson, particularly one that was shared with you from a colleague. How to load lessons directly into Google Classroom. And how to find and review lessons later on in your Pear Deck dashboard. Here we go. There's been a lot of wonderful sharing of lessons going on, and Pear Deck lessons have been being shared around between colleagues. But it is important to remember that although it looks like a Pear Deck lesson, you can see the drawing slide and even the audio here, it is not actually a Pear Deck lesson until you have activated that add-on and really started the lesson. So sometimes people are saying, well, these links aren't working. Well, it's not activated yet. Really, it's kind of just a glorified Google slide at this point. There's some things we need to do to actually turn it into a Pear Deck lesson. So you will need the add-on extension for Pear Deck, and you will need to open that add-on every single time you want to share this lesson as a Pear Deck lesson with your students. When you select the Pear Deck extension, that's when you're going to be able to start this lesson and share this lesson with your students. So you always need to open that app or that add-on and start the lesson. Okay, these are the steps we're going to do if we're going to assign it directly into Google Classroom. So we're going to select Start Lesson. And today I'm showing you how to do a student-paced asynchronous lesson. So I selected student-paced. And it's going to tell me, oh yeah, remember you have to go to your dashboard. Sure, I got it. Now here's the lovely link I'm looking for. I want to share this lesson directly to my Google Classroom. When I select Share to Classroom, it will open up a new window. For Share to Classroom, you will need to choose your class and your action for an assignment. And again, I recommend that you schedule your assignments in case you make a little goof and you want to go back and redo it. You always, if you're embedding more than one material with your Pear Deck, you have to start with the Pear Deck first and then add the other items into it. So you give your Pear Deck a title. And then you're going to, I suggest, schedule it. And you're halfway done with what you're doing in Classroom. There is still one more step that's really important to know about, but we're going to complete the part on Pear Deck and then return to Google Classroom. Continuing on in the Pear Deck window, we want to go to the Teacher Dashboard. When you open up your Teacher Dashboard, you will see that it looks a lot like if you were doing a live lesson. But that's actually not what we're doing, but it still is waiting for those responses. We want to make sure we name this lesson so we can find it again later on in our dashboard. So we're going to select the three dots for more and come up to a name session and give it a name. Okay. And we're going to save that session name, of course. And then we are going to want to close this session for us. It will continue in student pace. I'm going to select Leave Session. And I'm going to leave the session. It will take me back to my original slide. It's very important that I return back to my Google Classroom because the assignment is created, but it is not yet in the correct day or the place that I want it. It's really more of a draft. And remember, I do recommend scheduling it in case you need to edit something later on. So I want to open up that assignment. I do recommend also labeling your assignment in Google Classroom as a Pear Deck assignment, because parents may be trained to look for grades inside there, and knowing that it's a Pear Deck and you've already perhaps shared some information about how these will be graded with them, it will prevent you having to go back into Google Classroom and assign a grade for each and every time. Pear Deck is great to use as like a quiz. You really get to see what they're drawing. Select your topic. And schedule. And this is the time if you wanted to add in an informational video or anything, you add it in here after the Pear Deck. And now you should see it in the stream for that day. Here I've opened up a Pear Deck assignment so that you can see what the students will see. You can see their drawing tools here. And it's important to mention that you do not click up at the top to hear the audio. You actually go down on the bottom and you look for the little headphones down here on this black stripe on the bottom, and that's actually where students will access the audio. Because there's been a little confusion about that, I'm adding that in for you. Now let's see how once the students have completed their work, you can see what they've done asynchronously in your Pear Deck dashboard. So you want to look at what the students have done on their assignments later on. You're going to go to your Pear Deck homepage. Perhaps this is called the dashboard. I'm not sure what it's called, but you go to your Pear Deck. You can see some assignments listed here, and also sometimes even with student names. But you can look for the sessions here, and you will see the name that you've given the session. And you can see that you can look right into your dashboard here and access the materials that the students have done when it's not live. This gives you a bit more time when you're able to look at each student's slide. Having a little bit more time or ability for note-taking, I think, is a great additional use of Pear Deck to be used perhaps as an assessment. So by going to your dashboard and finding your named session, you can look at the student's work at your leisure, if you will. I hope that helped you how to think about how to work with your Pear Deck for asynchronous lessons. Remember to always activate or start a lesson by going to your Pear Deck add-on and starting the lesson each and every time. Also, when you load your lessons into Google Classroom, to remember to go back into Classroom and move it to the correct spot. And also how to find and review the lessons later on in your Pear Deck dashboard. They appear to remain in there for a long time, and it's a nice way to go back and review. So I hope this brief tutorial helped you with some of the steps for using Pear Deck lessons asynchronously. Thanks for watching Learn with me, Mrs. Sullivan.